Hey everybody, hope you're doing good today, November 7th, and this is the Morning Devo with Bo. And we are going to be in 2 Psalms on this Tuesday. You can always check out the archives of these devotions at my YouTube channel at Bo Willett. Just go to youtube.com, put in the search bar Bo Willett, spelled right there. And you will get to all the different books of the Bible that we've gone over quite a bit, that's for sure. As always, Paula's in the house and she's digging the tunes, and always love that. Yes, a little lo-fi, some beats for you. And anyway, yeah, I'm from Southern California, Generation X guy, 1972 I was born. And so very much that Ronald Reagan era of music, and a lot of subculture music too, electronica music, punk music, metal music. God, definitely familiar with a lot of it. A lot of concerts as well, and Sunset Boulevard in the 80s. Whew, hair metal bands galore. Yeah, so just that Southern California kid who's kind of grew up out there, and I tend to bring a lot of that mindset into a lot of what I read in the Bible. So let's get into Psalm 76. Super nice morning today out here in the desert. Let's start off. Now, this is a psalm, it says, of for stringed instruments, and it's a psalm of Asaph. So we get another psalm of Asaph, who wrote that amazing psalm, Psalm 73. And he wrote all, the last psalm we did, and we see now we got this one as well, and the next one as well, and the next one as well. So Asaph, pretty important writer for Israel. So it says, God is honored in Judah. His name is great in Israel. Judah at the time is the place, the kingly tribe, if you will, of Israel. Out of all the 12 tribes, Israel had a kingly tribe, and that tribe was the tribe of Judah. And so it says, God is honored in Judah. His name is great in Israel. Jerusalem is where he lives. Mount Zion is his home. Again, talking about God, talking about God's dwelling place, that temple that is in Jerusalem, the mountain, the place of where the temple rested, called Mount Zion. It says, for he has broken the fiery arrows of the enemy and the shields and swords and the weapons of war. You are glorious and more majestic than the everlasting mountain. Our boldest enemies have been plundered. They lie before us in the sleep of death. No warrior could lift a hand against him, or against us. At the blast of your breath, O God of Jacob. Their houses and chariots lay still. No wonder they are greatly feared. Who can stand before you when your anger explodes? From heaven you sentenced your enemies. Let's see, it says, from heaven you sentenced your enemies. The earth trembled and stood silent before you. You stand up to judge those who do evil, O God, and to rescue the oppressed of the earth. So the idea isn't just God's conquering everything to conquer, but that he's actually helping the oppressed from the enemies, those that really are filled with integrity, that really love God, that really want to do the right thing. They're being, in a sense, held back, oppressed by people wanting you to do the wrong thing. And it's interesting, our world, when we think of it, how many people want you to do the wrong thing? That's an interesting question, right? Because your answer is probably going to be a lot. And the reason why is because everything's, a purchase. If I can get you to think a certain way, then you'll purchase my product. And so everything is, in a sense, marketing, right? It's trying to get you to get in on something. And so there's a lot of people that don't have our best interest in mind, but just see us as a avenue of money, as a unit, if you will. And so, hey, if I can keep getting you to do something, then I kind of gain from that. And, so a lot of times we can get oppressed in many different ways. It's not just kind of that old idea of oppression, of totalitarian kind of regime. But you can be oppressed too just by a bombardment of maybe marketing, where it's constant in your face, right? You need this, you need this, you need this, you need this. Before you know it, you're walking and saying, hey, I need that. Or do you need that? Is that really something that's beneficial for you and your family to have? But you got it, you don't know why. So a lot of times, oppression can come different ways. The enemy can look different than what we might think. And the idea, of course, is that God is helping the oppressed. God's going to deliver the oppressed. So it's a cool psalm just in the idea that God is going to help out those that love him. And so it says in verse 8, from heaven you sentenced your enemies, the earth trembled and stood silent before you. It's kind of a neat picture, of the earth even being in awe of God. Jesus says when he was riding in on a donkey into Jerusalem, it says that people were praising Jesus when he was coming in, and they were hailing him as, the salvation of Israel. And the religious people told Jesus, hey, you need to stop your people from worshiping you like this. It's pretty blasphemous, right? You should only worship God and God alone, and yet they're worshiping you. And Jesus says, hey, if these people were to stop, the stones would cry out. Wow, it's kind of a neat picture, the earth being in awe of God. And this is kind of what it says here. The earth is awe of the Lord, right? And here you have the Lord in their midst in Jesus' day, right? God in human flesh in their midst, and they're in awe. The earth is even in awe, right? The stones would cry out and worship God at that time. So pretty neat. I like that picture. You stand up to judge those who do evil, O God, and rescue the oppressed of the earth. Human defiance only enhances your glory. You use it as a weapon. Again, that defiance, right? Remember we talked about that before, where people are defiant, shaking their fist at God. Make vows to the Lord your God and keep them, and everyone who brings tribute to the Awesome One, for he breaks the pride of princes, and the kings of the earth fear him. So God is about the business of breaking our pride as human beings. He will do it. He will humble us. And the question I guess I get to ask this morning is, am I going to be willing to be humbled by God? Or am I going to be on his side when he humbles me? Or am I going to be fighting him in defiance? Don't want to be in defiance to God. It's tough. It's like if you're in defiance to someone that is bigger and stronger, it becomes foolish, right? It's like when you're young and you're little, and I was small, and if I go up against the big dude in school, it becomes foolish, right? Because there's no doubt that I'm not going to win. And that's kind of how we are with God. We kind of become defiant. No, like, man, why would I? I can do better than God. And we start thinking these things. Like, there's no God. Who cares? Blah, blah, blah. This kind of ideas start going through our head. We don't realize that our defiance is really an act of foolishness. It's just not wise. You and I are going to die, and we have to think through that. Right? And if that's the case, the most reasonable thing is to see if there's an eternity and if there's someone who knows something about it. And certainly Jesus has a lot to say about that kind of thing. So chapter 77 says, I cry out to God, yes, I shout. Oh, that God would listen to me. When I was in deep trouble, I searched for the Lord. All night long I prayed with hands lifted toward heaven. But my soul was not comforted. I think of God and I moan, overwhelmed with longing for his help. So sad, right? This time of crying out to the Lord, reaching out, hands lifted up. Why do we worship with hands lifted up? Because it's biblical, right? Because we lift with our hands lifted to heaven. It's a sign of what? I need, right? A sign of I need you. That's what I need you so much, Lord. That's kind of the idea. Notice he says, I was in deep trouble. He says, I was not comforted. I lifted up, I'm looking for you, but I can't find comfort. I can't find the things I need. It's a real honest, I think, approach. I think sometimes in Christianity, we tend to always want to kind of say the right thing. We're afraid that if we say something that's true and honest, it might come off as negative, and therefore we shouldn't say it. Well, the writers of the Psalms know no such issue. They are very honest with God, right? When they don't feel comforted in their prayer life, they let it be known to God. And so it's a great example to us that when we go to God in prayer, you can go with anything. You can share your honest heart. And you should. He's your dad. And, he wants to hear from us. Even though he knows what we're going to say, he desires to hear our hearts. He loves that intimacy. And so it says, you don't let me sleep. I am too distressed even to pray. That's some stress right there. We've all had that before, where we can't sleep. Seems like we can't stay focused in prayer. I think of the good old days long since ended, when my nights were filled with joyful songs, and I searched my soul to ponder the difference now. Has the Lord rejected me forever? Will he never again be kind to me? Is his unfailing love gone forever? Have his promises permanently failed? Has God forgotten to be gracious? Has he slammed the door on his compassion? Wow. Talk about being honest. And we've heard a lot about King David saying, hey, your unfailing love's awesome. Unfailing love, your unfailing love. And here, the Psalm of Asaph, I'm too distressed. I'm too freaked out. I can't find any comfort in the Lord. I'm wondering about, what's going on, right? Will you ever be kind to me? Is your unfailing love even still there? Is your compassion even available? A very, very honest and broken heart before God. But notice he's directing, he's still going upward with this stuff, right? Instead of going outward, he's still going upward with all the things that are going on in his heart and in his mind. And for that, it's very good, right? It's just that he's very sad. He's going through, it sounds like he's going through maybe just what we go through in older age, where as we get older, our bodies get tired, and we wonder about, is God with us? When we're sick, is God really with us? Is God really going to help me out? Those doubts can come, right? There's a person that came to Jesus, and he said to Jesus, I believe, but help my unbelief. Man, that's a really interesting thing, right? I believe, but help my unbelief. Real honest with Jesus. He didn't say to Jesus, man, I got faith. Great. It's amazing faith. A positive faith. I'm just positive faith guy. He didn't say that. He said, God, our Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief. You need to lift me up, God. I believe, but boy, there's a weakness in me that I could sense. That's a good way to think. So let's be honest with God. Certainly so. It's a good thing to think about today. And I said, this is my fate. The Most High has turned his hand against me. But then I recall all you have done, O Lord. I remember your wonderful deeds from long ago. They are constantly in my thoughts, and I cannot stop thinking about your mighty works. O God, your ways are holy. Is there any God as mighty as you? God does things according to his holiness. We get that throughout the Bible. God does things according to this wholeness of God. And it says, is there any God as mighty as you? The answer is no. You are the God of great wonders. You demonstrate your awesome power among the nations. By your strong arm, you redeemed your people. That idea always pops up in the Bible. The strong arm is going to redeem. The strong arm is going to redeem. Again, we'll see who that strong arm is as we get going even more in the Bible. It says, your strong arm, you redeemed your people, the descendants of Jacob and Joseph, right? Israel. When the Red Sea saw you, O God, the waters looked and trembled. The sea quaked into its very depths. The clouds poured down rain. The thunder rumbled in the sky. Your arrows of lightning flashed. Your thunder roared with the whirlwind. Like lightning lit up the world. The earth trembled and shook. Your road led to the sea, your pathway through the mighty waters, a pathway no one knew was there. You led your people along the road like a flock of sheep, with Moses and Aaron as their shepherds. Okay, so we see that Asaph is looking back at what God has done in the deliverance of the people from the hand of Pharaoh, an enemy and a very prideful and defiant one at that. It's foolish, Pharaoh, to be defiant towards God, right? God's much stronger. What's interesting is it sounds pretty radical, the Red Sea. It doesn't sound like a small sea at all, right? It sounds pretty intense, and it sounds like what happened there was pretty intense as well. So Asaph looks back, and so it's good for us today to look back, see all that God's done, and be confident that He's got our future in His hand as well. So hopefully that's how you're thinking about it too. Is that God's got your past, and you look back on your past and you see it, and so you know God's got your future as well. And that's how these Psalms go. So it's good because whenever we're trying to help people, sometimes we can help them by just saying, hey, do you remember God's faithfulness? And they might say, yeah, I do remember God's faithful. And you go, see, God is faithful in the past, and He'll be faithful in the present and in the future. He'll be with you. He'll help you. So it's a great thing to think about. He gets it too from the Word of God, right? Asaph is getting everything that God's done from the Word. He's trusting in the Word of God. And that's true for us as well. We need to trust the words of God. The Bible is written about history. We can trust it. We can research it, look it up. It's great. For that reason. And so, a very cool 2 Psalms, very short, very much about God helping us, and one of them about really being honest with God. I mean, really telling God everything that's going on in the heart. And the thing is God's big enough to listen. Now remember, these are songs that the whole congregation of Israel sang. Could you imagine singing these songs? Wow. Unbelievable, right? Very real, very down to earth. And maybe there's some good healing in us when we can just be honest with God, about where we're at. That kind of honesty with God is a good first step to getting really honest with other people as well, which brings about a peace and a serenity in our heart. When was the last time you got real honest with God? It's a good question for all of us, right? Well, Psalm 77 is definitely that one to use as an example. So, cool time. Hey, we'll talk to you later, okay? Have a great day. Tina, Paula, you guys have a good one. Everyone else who's watching this, you guys take care. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.